Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar, How to Keep Basements Dry. My name is Dave Demaria, and I am the Director of Sales for Canada with Dörken Systems. I will have a couple polls that I'll be asking during the presentation to give me a general overview of who the audience is. And also in regards to questions, please feel free to use the questions tab that's located in the toolbar. If you have any questions, I will review them after the presentation as we will have some extra time. So starting off, I will ask a poll right now. So just kind of judge who my audience is. If you guys can look in, if I can review it, are you a builder, a contractor, architect, engineer, a manufacturer, or other? This is good. We got some nice action going. I'll give it about 10 more seconds, then I'll close off the pool. Okay, so I'm going to share this and see if people can see it. But we've got about 35% of the people online are builders, 9% contractors, 12% architects, engineers, 18% manufacturers, and 26% other. Thank you for doing the poll. So if I could get off, our company has its international headquarters in Germany. Dörken manufactures a range of high-performance air and moisture barriers for above and below grade, where the focus today is obviously going to be on the below grade with foundations. From occupant discomfort to health risk due to mold and mildew to expensive material damage, foundation moisture has become one of the biggest headaches in home building. When moisture makes an unwanted appearance in the foundation, people automatically look to their contractors to correct it. Maybe worse, wonder why their builder didn't ensure the best protection against moisture in the first place. Proper foundation protection is critical to keeping basements dry. This webinar will explain how to provide superior protection for your below-grade living spaces to ensure more comfortable and healthier living spaces for your homeowners, better efficiency and durability for your buildings, and fewer warranty claims and callbacks for you. So a little history behind our company. The Dörken Group was founded in 1892. This picture, as you can see on the screen, was taken in 1925. We were only a few small buildings there. And this is Dörken now in Germany. So as you can see, it's expanded tremendously. They have basically a little town within the company. And Dörken is a privately held company. It was founded by two brothers, Carl Dörken, who was a chemical engineer, and Ewald, who was a businessman. The corporate head offices in this picture are located in Herdecke, which is due east of Dusseldorf. The main plant operates about 650,000 square meters a day, which equates to about 7 million square feet of production. It initially started with paints and corrosive protection, and in 1925, it introduced its first roofing membrane for railway carriages. In the 60s, it introduced non-woven spun-bonded fiber technology. And this is where we are in Beamsville, Ontario, where we manufacture majority of our dimple sheets. So most of you might be familiar with Casella Dörken, as we used to be referred to. Casella was two Italian partners, which ended up starting the company, and the Casella came from two of their last names put together. They're no longer with the company, and so in 2017, we decided to follow our parent company and create a broader name for the company and change it to Dörken Systems. We manufactured this plant, and in the picture, you can see the gray roof. That was the original plant built in 1995. And in 2007, where the white roof is we did a 50,000 square foot expansion. Currently in this plant, we service all North and South America. And just recently, we've just about finished completion of another $50 million expansion, which is currently underway, which goes from the white part of the building all the way to the road in the upper left corner. This facility is in Beamsville, Ontario. For those who are familiar, it's about 30 minutes from the Buffalo or US border. And from this plant in this location, we service all Canada, US, Mexico, and all of South America. Dörken layers, we have three main segments of products. Foundations being number one. We manufacture products for residential and also commercial. We've expanded into above grade walls with vapor permeable, high performance air and water resistant barriers, and also engineered rain screens. So drainable rain screens for absorptive claddings like wood sidings, fiber cement board, and more in direct line with manufactured stone or stucco. And we also have some roofing underlayments for pitched roofs, and these are more specialty underlayments for metal roofs, as you can see in the picture there, cedar roofs, slate roofs, any long-term performing roofs. And this is kind of where our parent company in Germany has a lot of successes in their breathable roofing markets. And we also have some membranes that we use for flat roofing as well. So in this picture, obviously basements back in the day used to be used as storage. You know, they were damp, they were had a funny smell to them, but they weren't really used as living spaces. You know, they typically had leakage, water leaks. You know, they just weren't pleasant places to be. They were dark and damp, but they've evolved greatly over the years. And you know, today they're made into home offices, playrooms, gyms. Some of them even have home theaters, wine cellars, and some of them even made them into in-law suites or rental apartments. I know some of my friends, being in the Italian community, also put a secondary kitchen in their basement. So they're not what they used to be. You know, they are livable spaces, and they shouldn't be moldy. They shouldn't have any. They should be comfortable living spaces in healthy environments. Just as basements have evolved, so too have the expectations of homeowners. A dry and comfortable basement is the basic price of entry in new home buyers, not an upgrade in their minds. Simply built to code can lead to moisture and temperature issues, making the space uncomfortable for everyday living. Some benefits of improved foundations. Obviously, you want to have a comfortable living space. You want to eliminate any mold-related odors, prevent mold and mildew, restrict entry of soil gases and radon, like radon and methane. You want to avoid adverse health effects, and you also want to reduce your energy bills. So how does water get into basements? Well, it rains. When it rains, we have a lot of water that gets saturated into the soil and tries to make its way into the basement. Well, as it's raining, it's also going to deflect off your cladding, and then you have a lot of surface water runoff. You also have a lot of humidity and moisture in the air. And then below grade, you're always going to have 100% relative humidity. It's extremely damp, the soil at a constant all year long, and that moisture is always going to want to work its way in through the foundation wall, up through the footing, or up from underneath the slab and work its way into the basement. So common basement problems that we see, obviously, you know, leaks, dampness, rotting of building components, elevated relative humidity, poor air quality, possible radon and methane leaks that get into your basement, and low energy efficiency. This results in very uncomfortable living space, adverse health effects, high energy bills, shortened building life, and reduced property value. So here's a diagram of a residential foundation system. What you can see here is a foundation wall protected with a dimple sheet. Behind that dimple sheet, you have a waterproof membrane. Here we're showing a peel and stick membrane. In the corner where the foundation wall meets the footing, there's also a product there called a cold joint barrier or flood boot. Where the foundation wall is sitting on, that would be our Delta footing barrier. I'll talk a little bit more about this product later on, but this prevents moisture from wicking up the footing into the foundation wall and into the basement. And lastly, we have the Delta MS underslab, which acts as a vapor barrier underneath your slab. Conventional damp proofing, like the most common, is tar. This is still used in some areas of Canada, and as you can see from the pictures, it has its issues. It does not bridge cracks, it does not fill all voids, and it does not resist hydrostatic pressure. Even properly applied sprays start to break down after just 1 year. This means callbacks and warranty claims. In this picture, we're going to talk about effective and ineffective protection. On the photo to the left, you're going to see basically a wall that's been treated with damp proofing, a tar liquid on the exterior side of the wall. But what happens is if the wall cracks or concrete cracks, and talking about concrete, there's two types of concrete: concrete that cracks and concrete that will crack. So for anyone that says the concrete doesn't crack, we should have a discussion outside of this, because that just doesn't happen. So if you were to spray a coating onto the wall and the wall were to crack, you're going to have water penetration with the hydrostatic pressure moving the water through that crack and into the basement. Quick solution to that is to use a dimple sheet, which creates an air gap like Delta MS. It bridges any size crack and it keeps the water outboard on the soil side and allows basically an air gap between the wet soil and the foundation wall. Impermeable to water and water vapor, Delta MS features an exclusive vacuum-formed dimple pattern that can create an air gap between the membrane and the foundation, allowing water to escape via gravity. This air gap at the foundation wall allows incidental water to fall freely to the footing drain. It bridges cracks, so there's no water intrusion. So what makes Delta MS so special? Well, we're the only manufacturer that makes it in 3 layers. The middle of it being 60% recycled high-density polyethylene, which keeps it as a green product and keeps costs in line. And then what we do is we sandwich it with 2 layers of virgin plastic, HDPE. So the outside and inside layer have virgin HDPE, which encapsulates it with the recycled plastic. This is what gives it its durability. The specific co-extrusion makeup paired with the offset dimples leads to a higher stress crack resistance, ensuring that original compressive strength of the membrane is maintained for the lifetime of the building. This is especially true when compared to sprays or products made of 100% recycled materials, which are susceptible to stress cracks and premature aging and failure. We are very distinct with our brown color of dimple sheet with a bright orange stripe at the top. We do have competitors in the market, and not all of these dimple sheets are created equally. The picture to the left is one of our competitors, which is made in Canada, and it's 100% recycled plastic. It's only a single layer, and what happens with recycled plastic, it tends to break down a lot quicker than virgin plastic would. The picture on the right is another competitor, which you may be familiar with, also made in Canada, and they utilize about 85%, as they say, in recycled plastics, and put about 15% of virgin material in there. The issue is it's made in a single layer, so it's tough to disperse the virgin layers, so it's basically all mixed together in one. Casella Dörken has done some third-party testing on our competitors' products to basically determine, when would be the first crack, when you'd have complete failure. So I took in the names of the competitors, but there's 3 main competitors. 2 of them we showed in the previous slide, and there's one other that's imported from Europe, all made with 100% recycled content. As you can see from the pictures on the right, after some of the testing has been completed, some of the dimples have completely compressed, they've got cracks, or they've basically disintegrated. So it's very difficult to tell what's been recycled in the plastic and how many times it's been recycled. This is one of the key issues on why Dörken decides to use the 3-layer co-extrusion process. Here is a picture taken from a custom home in Hamilton, Ontario, and this was about a $2 million home. And as you can see on the membrane down below, it appears to be kind of melting off the wall, distant, away from the fasteners. You can see rips and tears in the membrane. And this is something that if someone's spending this kind of money on a home, that is unacceptable. This is going to cause definitely some moisture issues in the future with dirt getting behind the membrane, blocking the air gap, and having moisture come into the basement. Here's another picture of a terrible installation. One of the key things you want to look for in this when the Delta or the dimple sheet is installed is to make sure it's sealed at the very top of the membrane. This prevents any dirt from flowing into the dimples and clogging the drainage and basically creating leakage into the water, into the basement. Here's another picture that's just totally unacceptable. So what you want to make sure is it's capped off at the top with a flashing or a termination bar or mold strip, and that way prevents any dirt from getting behind the membrane and causing the system to fail. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the application. Delta mesh can be installed on poured concrete wall, which is very common. It can be installed on an ICF wall. It can also be installed on a concrete block wall that's been parched and precast concrete. The only thing we recommend with the ties is you patch any of the tie holes with an asphaltic mastic or something similar. Repair any cracks if there's been any cracks, and make sure you clean on top of the footing. One of the nice things about Delta mesh is it can be installed in pretty much any type of weather, down to -31 degrees Celsius. All you need to install it is a hammer or an automatic nail gun, which most of the installers will use, concrete nails, a utility knife or tin snips, a large caulking gun, a chalk line, and a broom. Obviously, you want to make sure you have your safety equipment as well: hard hat, safety boots, gloves, safety glasses. One of the nice things about Delta mesh is you don't need protective masks, spray suits. It's completely environmentally safe and friendly and user-friendly to install. This is a common question we get: is waterproofing or damp proofing required behind Delta? Actually, at this time, I'm going to do another poll. Let's see here. And what are you currently using to protect your basement? So maybe the builders and contractors that do installations, are you using a liquid applied damp proofing, which could be rolled on or sprayed on? Are you utilizing a drainage mat? Are you using a peel and stick or waterproof membrane, or something else? Okay, so looks like so far we've got 39% saying other. We've got 28% saying about liquid damp proofing and 28% about drainage mat. I'll do another 5 seconds and then we'll close off this pool and I will share the responses. Okay. So hopefully you can see these results, but I can read them too if not. It says 25% liquid damp proofing, 30% drainage mat, 10% peel and stick, and 35% other. So perhaps the people that wrote other, I'd be interested to know what it is you're using. Maybe you can write that into the question. And let's go. Sorry about that. Let's go back to. Okay, so back to the question: is waterproofing or damp proofing required behind Delta MS? For those of you who are unfamiliar, Delta MS can be used as a standalone system. CCMC approvals for drainage and damp proofing. A lot of times it's installed over damp proofing or a waterproofing membrane as well. I know in Ontario, majority of they spray a tar and then they put the Delta mess over top. Both are totally acceptable and pass code. So one of the key issues with the Delta mess is we want to make sure it's in a clean area before installing, not damaged, and out of the UV light. The only thing that breaks down plastics is typically UV light. Once it's buried, it can last for lifetime of the structure. You want to obviously expect the substrate for any frozen concrete, parge any block walls. If you can, and cost and permitted, you can put a cove at the footing if required. Make sure you patch all your tie holes and to remove any protrusions. So when you're starting, obviously you want to install the Delta mesh to wherever the anticipated grade level is going to be. So there should be grade lines marked. If not, you need to find out, the installer needs to find out what grade level is going to be, and install the membrane from the top of that grade level all the way down to the footing. You want to start at least 1 foot away from the common wall or conditioned area. So inside of a basement, you want to do the inside and wrap it around with 1 foot. You want to go past the garage about 1 foot and wrap around the whole perimeter. Perimeter gravels to be placed before and after the installation of Delta mess. Minimum of 6 inches above the footing covering the bottom of the Delta mess, as you can see in the picture in the bottom. The other thing you want to consider as well is the perforated plastic drainage tile. Make sure that is beside the footing and not on top of the footing. You want the weeping tile or the drainage tile to be at the lowest point to be able to drain all the water away. This shows a picture of the Delta mess installed with it kinked over the footing. This is definitely recommended for best practice. Building code does require damp proofing to be installed at grade level to the footing. However, best practice, we recommend draping the Delta mess over the footing to protect the cold joint and deflect the water directly into the weeping tile. If installed as a drainage layer, CCMC recommends any dimple sheet to be installed over the footing. We also have a complete line of accessories. Delta fastener, this is an orange clip that fits into 4 or 5 of the dimples. This has excellent holding power, and you can space it out basically every 12 inches in a W pattern, or basically every 2 rows of every 24 inches on center. Delta grip fasteners, this is a pretty cool product used more for either insulation or for Delta drain, which I'll get into a little bit later. So this doesn't end up penetrating through the waterproofing into the concrete, but allows you to hang a membrane and hold it in place until you backfill. Delta mold strip is one of the products we use for sealing off the top of the membrane around windows and around and for the end laps. It could also be our Delta flash product as well. And Delta screw fastener. This is if you're going to be insulating the exterior of your foundation wall and you don't want to puncture through the waterproofing. These screw fasteners are about 2 inches long, and they basically will fasten through the membrane into the insulation to hold the membrane in place, but won't puncture the actual waterproofing and won't go into the concrete. And then we have Delta sealant. This is used for overlaps and also at the top of the membrane. If there's any gaps bigger than 1/8 of an inch, you want to make sure that you just use some sealant to prevent any dirt from getting behind the membrane. If water gets behind the membrane, obviously not a big concern. You have that air gap. Gravity is going to flow with, it's going to work, and water is going to flow down to the footing and outside towards the weeping tile. Another thing to consider, I think I mentioned it before, is do not expose the membrane to UV light for more than 30 days. After 30 days, the plastic starts to become brittle and starts deteriorating. So make sure you try to get as close to grade level as you can, and then top it up with your landscaping to make sure the membrane's been completely covered and protected. Now I'm going to show a video, installation video. It's about 3 minutes long, so just give me a second here. It should load. But this installation video, it's also available on YouTube. If you look at our YouTube channel, which we have a lot of installation videos. Okay. Okay, so I think we're back. I hope everyone enjoyed that installation video. Please feel free to visit our YouTube channel, Google, or go on YouTube and type in Dörken Systems, and a whole bunch of installation videos and other webinars will pop up. It's a great tool to explore. So CCMC, we are approved for damp proofing and drainage layer. These are the CCMC numbers. One convenient thing about our Delta MS is we make it in numerous sizes, all the way from 3'6" all the way up to 9'10". The most common roll that we sell is about 6'7" foot roll, and they're all 65.5 feet long. So that is Delta MS. Now we're going to move on to Delta Drain, which is another very unique and great product. I'm excited to share or to teach you a little bit about this product. But this product is based off the same membrane as the Delta MS. And with the Delta MS, if you can remember, the dimples were facing the concrete to create an air gap between the soil and the foundation wall. Well, the Delta Drain is actually reversed. So what we've done in the picture on the left is we've got the dimples facing outwards towards the soil, and we've heat bonded a filter fabric to the dimples. So what this does is it allows any water that filters through the soil, it actually filters through this cloth or this geotextile into that air gap and drains immediately down to the footing and away from the building. So this helps relieve a lot of the hydrostatic pressure against the wall. It acts as a capillary break, stopping moisture from traveling from the soil side into the concrete. And this is always installed over a waterproofing or damp proofing layer. It cannot be used as a standalone system. This comes in rolls of 6 foot high and 8 foot, 6 foot wide and 8 foot wide, all by 65.5 feet long. And it's installed the same way as Delta MS. Use those orange clips into the fastener or into the membrane into the foundation wall. This product can also be used in retaining walls, as shown in the picture on the left. So what they've done is they're going to be backfilling against this retaining wall. Retaining walls, as I'm sure people have seen in going for walks or drives, a lot of times once they're installed vertically, but over time they start kind of bowing and almost look like they're about to fall over. That's basically because of all the hydrostatic pressure against that wall, pushing the wall forward. But if you were to use a drainage mat like Delta Drain, that relieves the hydrostatic pressure and directs the water down to a collection agency to move it away from the wall. The picture on the right, we actually use it as well in commercial construction. So they're using this as a drainage layer in a blindside application. So they basically would be pouring forms up against the wall and pouring the concrete against this drainage layer, but creating an air gap for any water getting through this shale and basically directing it to a sump pump and away. Delta footing barrier. This is a very great product, and it's part of the whole complete system when you're looking at eliminating chances for moisture intrusion or water into the basement. So the footing barrier comes in a 17.8-inch wide roll by 82 feet long. It's installed on top of a freshly poured footing, and just with a trowel you press it into the fresh concrete, and then it stops rising dampness. It's also part of the OHBA's best practice guide for full height basement insulation. So when the code changed in 2009 to require full height basement insulation, what we started realizing is moisture that typically would wick up from the footing, the lowest point of the structure, right beside the weeping tiles, was always a constant water and moisture source. It would wick up from the footing into the foundational wall and then try to work its way into the basement. So what this footing barrier does, it creates the capillary break and prevents moisture from coming from the footing into the foundation wall. So this picture here, we're showing it being installed. As you can see, they're pouring the footings. What this installer is doing is he's using actually a 2x6 or a piece of wood to create a keyway, where the forms will be put up and the concrete wall will be placed on top. And it's very simple to install. It's a very inexpensive product. You're looking at about $65 to $70 suggested retail price per roll. So you're looking at an average size house, maybe 3 rolls and about less than $200. The nice thing about this product is it doesn't slow the process down. You don't have to wait. It's not a spray or a coating that you need to wait for it to cure. The forming guys love it because they're not putting it on some kind of substance that's they're gonna have to scrape off the bottom of their forms afterwards. And it's just a very easy and simple product to install. So as the float the footing, what you want to do is use a trowel and basically embed and push the delta footing barrier into the fresh concrete. Once the concrete, as you can see on the back side, it's kind of got like a fleecy fabric. So once that fleecy fabric gets saturated full of concrete, as shown in that picture, once the concrete cures, those fibers are going to be into the fresh concrete and basically fully adhered. So the footing barrier will not move anywhere. The forming guys will come up the next day once the footing's been cured. They'll snap their chalk lines for the forms, set up the forms, pour the wall, and now you have a complete capillary break, stopping moisture from rising from the footing into your foundation wall. Lastly, which would be the least chance for water and moisture to get into your basement, would be from underneath the slab. Well, we use our Delta mesh that we use for the foundation, but also use it underneath the slab in place of a poly. So it's a lot more rigid and rugged than a poly sheet would be, a lot more durable, so you can walk on it, you can wheel bill over it, you're not going to have to worry about any penetrations. And the dimples kind of act as cleats on the stone, so it just creates a nice working surface to walk and work on. This is used actually quite often in slab-on-grade townhouses. So builders that are used to using Delta mesh on foundations are basically just now laying it flat on the ground and pouring their slab-on-grade towns on top of the Delta MS. This is the detail here I wanted to show. Basically, reviews and shows if you're going to be installing exterior insulation on the foundation. What are our methods to install it? We do have a full line of architectural details that are readily available to anyone that wants them. So please feel free to reach out to myself or any of the reps in Canada, and we'd be happy to set you up with our technical department to review any of your details on exterior insulation or drainage or waterproof membranes. But as you can see here, we've got the wall's been coated with a waterproof membrane. They've got an extruded polystyrene insulation outboards of it. And then what they've done is they've installed the Delta drain over top of the insulation, and to basically create drainage to drain the water away from the wall as quickly as possible and into the weeping tile and away from the structure. So here would be a picture of the optimal residential foundation. As you can see, we have the Delta drain. Behind that would be a peel and stick membrane. On the cold joint, we have a cold joint barrier or flood boot. This could be just a 12 or 18-inch wide peel and stick membrane that protects the cold joint. Or you could wrap the waterproof membrane, or if it's spray or liquid applied, spray that cold joint over top of the footing and up the foundation wall. All are acceptable methods, and then you just want to utilize a drainage board over top to deflect that water and protect the waterproofing system. On the footing, you see the Delta footing barrier, and you see the Delta MS under slab underneath the footing. So this is a full foundation protection system that we can offer. We also get into commercial drainage boards, more for commercial applications. So any builders that are doing multifamily and have 1-story, 2-story, or even deeper of parking garages, we do have higher compressive strength drainage boards. They're called Delta Drain 2000, 6000, or 9000. They all have different compressive strengths, and they are made of polypropylene, so not HDPE polyethylene like our residential drainage boards, but a little bit more robust and durable. And we make these in our plant at Beamsville as well. We also have, we're the first air and moisture barrier manufacturer to provide files for Autodesk Revit, which is the industry leading BIM technology. This means that architects can insert the existing details more quickly and easily with less room for error. And then that can help build better buildings at a lower cost quicker than ever. We also support Passive House. Dörken supports Passive House as the only international recognized performance-based energy standard in construction. We can assist in the design of any passive house based on standards you choose. That will ensure your buildings are extremely energy efficient. Buildings designed and built to the passive house standards consume about 86% less energy for heating and 46% less energy for cooling. Please get in touch with us if you're building any passive house or net zero homes. We also have the Delta Academy, which is a great program committed to providing continuing education and training for building professionals who build to a higher standard. Using scientific evidence and global expertise, Delta Academy educators will explore building enclosures and the critical role they play in creating high-performance buildings. We welcome the opportunity to collaborate with your organizations and determine which Delta Academy education and training offerings best suit your needs. We will be doing a Delta Academy actually this Friday as well for stucco and stone. There's a Matt Reisinger, he's a US-based building expert that's going to be doing the presentation, the live webinar. So if anyone is interested, please reach out to me after the presentation, and I'd be happy to send you the link to his presentation this Friday. And Dörken System has been promoting buildings for 125 years in over 60 countries all over the world. Today, we are one of the largest air and moisture barrier companies in the world. We know what it takes to keep buildings dry and comfortable in all kinds of conditions. Thank you everyone for tuning in. This is the Canadian sales team, myself, Mike Fallon, who looks after the Ontario market, Patrick Lavoie, who looks after Ottawa and Quebec, Gary Schwab, who looks after all of Western Canada, everything west of Ontario, and Jean-Michel Bouzy, who looks after Quebec and the Atlantic Canada. Please feel free to reach out to these guys either on the phone numbers here or through their email. We'd be willing to help any builders out, with any installers with certifications. Whatever we can do to help, we're more than willing to. I will open this up now to any questions. Let me just click on the question thing. I don't see any questions. If anyone wants to type in, if they can find out or see where the questions are, if they'd be like to tap in any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Okay, I don't see any questions. If that is, there's no questions, I thank everyone for their time, and I hope they enjoyed this webinar. Thank you very much.